Well, thank you for joining me again. As you can see, we got Locke number 7. And I want to say a big thank you to Ben for sending me the marketplace listing. And a big thank you to Doug that I bought this machine from. And so we're going to see if we can get this thing running. It's in pretty good shape compared to some of the other ones I got. I have pretty high hopes that it'll just start right up. The reels and bed knife look good, chains look good, bearings, so far what I've seen. It needs a couple little things, but I think I can use some parts in here on the shelf to make this thing complete again. Okay, so it's time to take a look, see what's in the toolbox. Okay, already we got a handle here for backlapping. This here looks like to be the bolt to go to that. Got a spare fuel bowl, toothbrush, and a flat screwdriver. Not sure what the toothbrush would be for.
I think it's in the bowl.
Looks like they use a screwdriver as a handle to start it. Here's a piece of rope. Yeah, I'm not sure what that was used for. It looks like the piece of screen that would go inside of the bowl. This might have been what's left of the gasket. There's a grease zerk. So it looks like everything that's in the box. Okay, so I'm going to take that screwdriver that had the string tied to it. I'm going to use that to get this points cover off. I already know that there's no spark. I'm going to take a real fine piece of sandpaper. We're going to stick it in here and clean up these points. You can see, got a bunch of corrosion buildup on them. Got a pretty strong spring. I'm having a hard time getting them to open. It's a little hard to get the camera in here. I don't have the right tripod at the moment. I'll just have to try it this way and see what happens.
It's hard run.
On the second pull, I can hear a snapping, so I think we have a spark now. And it might be pretty weak, but if it's enough to get it running, it'll usually start to get a little stronger on its own.
Nope, not the blade.
So it looks like it lost spark again. Let's clean these points just a little more. Nice, really bright blue spark. That's what we want. Good. Because if we didn't get spark, we'd have to pull this whole entire front cover off the motor just to get into the magneto. I really didn't want to do that, but we're good. Okay, now we need to check this oil. Make sure we got plenty of oil in there, and I'm going to spray a little bit of gas down in the carburetor and see if it'll try to start. So we got like a mixture of dirty oil and new oil. Let's make sure there's nothing down in there that shouldn't be. Okay, so we pulled this oil bath filter off to get access to the intake. And this oil, you can see the bottom. This oil is very clean. So I'm starting to wonder if this machine was serviced in the winter or in the fall, ready for the next season, and that just never got used again, because this is very clean. Usually there's a ton of sludge laying down on the bottom. That oil, there's no water in the crankcase, so someone probably took good care of this machine, which is a good thing, because it's still, like I said, it's in really nice shape.
Oh.
So we did lose spark, pulled the cover back off, cleaned the points again, we got spark, so we're going to try this again. So we got cough out of it. A little more throttle. Sounds pretty good, no knocks. I think if we can get a little bit of fuel to it, and maybe that carburetor might be alright. Nothing else, we'll take it apart and rebuild it. Okay, so we got a little bit of rust laying down there at the bottom. This tank overall looks pretty good compared to the others. So we're going to put a little bit of gas in and see if the bowl leaks, and hopefully the float seals up so we're not dumping gas everywhere. We'll see if this thing will run off of its own tank. So we found that other bowl in the toolbox, and when I pulled this off, I don't believe there's even a gasket in there. I looked up inside, but I don't see it. So that would be why we had a leak. So let's see if we can get another gasket for this. Okay, fuel filters and bowls. That's what we needed. Attempt 2 failed. I got a flat screwdriver and I went in there and scraped some more of that old gasket out, so there was just a little bit left. Now we're going to try this again. Okay, I say that's a success. I don't see no drips, nothing's wet. Bowl's dry the whole way around. Okay, check for spark, we still have it. And try to crank it again. Sounds promising.
if this sets off.
Okay, so I got the main needle freed up. I ran it all the way in, backed it out a turn and a half. I put a new spark plug in it. And earlier when it was running, you see it was spitting black smoke. That's an indication it was flooding itself out. So I also drained the bowl and made sure there's nice fresh gas going in it. So let's see if we can get the take off now. She don't even want to try.
So some are done running.
Okay, so what was going on, I had the main needle all the way shut and I had the idle needle all the way shut, and it still ran. And it was still flooding out, so what I'd do is I'd turn the fuel off and that would allow the fuel level to drop to where it would actually pull it through the Venturi the way it's supposed to. That's when it would kind of run kind of normal, like it would really rev up, and it would let me give it throttle and it would smooth out. Then once all that fuel was used up, then it would try to shut off. So I tried to hurry up, turn the tank back on. Of course, it immediately started flooded. So I'm thinking that this gasket in here is bad, or maybe something in here is cracked. So hopefully we can rebuild this. I have a kit here, and if worst comes to worst, I have a aftermarket carburetor. It's a little bit different, and we'll have to figure out how to hook the fuel up, because this has for a rubber line where this one's a steel. But let's hope we don't have to go with that option. So on this style carburetor, there's 3 flathead screws, but even if you take those out, it still won't separate. When you pull the main jet out, there's going to be a nozzle that runs all the way up through, up into this piece up here, and it comes up into the area here of where the your idle needle is. And again, if this does get stuck, like it'll come out like 2 or 3 turns and stop, just keep working it back and forth and try to make progress every time. And it should eventually come out, but I've had them to where it just will not come out no matter what you do. Be careful with the side of the screwdriver. It doesn't mess up the threads, because it uses the same threads as this little piece here does. And there's the nozzle. Actually, it doesn't look hateful. It's a little dirty. Now we're ready to separate the carburetor. Not hateful. Still dirty, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Of course, these use a brass float. Nowadays, everything's plastic. So these are pretty good. I don't think the float filled up with gas or a sunken float. I don't think that happened because the gas will stay running out, which it didn't. So I'm very surprised this thing was loading up the way it was with no fuel constantly running out. So that's why I'm thinking it was this gasket right here. But while it's apart, we're going to rebuild all of it. You remove the float by pushing this pin through one way or the other. So I don't see any cracks or anything, but that doesn't mean it's not leaking. So I'm thinking it was going up into here, leaking past here, then going down into the venturi itself. It's just kind of weird though that it wasn't constantly dumping fuel out of the intake. So if you do get in a situation where you can't get that nozzle out, here's the nozzle tool. Here's the part number, 19280. If you center this nozzle tool up right, it'll sit right between the two halves here, and it'll take the seat right out for the needle, for the float. And that's what the needle seats against to stop the fuel from coming into the carburetor. And right here is the needle itself. It just sits in there just like that. And to see if the float has any fuel in it, hold it to your ear and just shake it. I don't hear no liquids washing around in there, so this one's good. On the end of your needle, there's a little bit of rubber. Make sure that's there and there's no chunks in it, or it's not missing, because if that's missing, it won't seal. Now this carburetor can be taken apart further. You can take that flathead screw out, and this is your main throttle butterfly, and down here is your choke. It's the same way. You can take those two screws out. I'm not going to go that far because I'm not worried about the bushings in the shafts. They all actually seem pretty well. Here's what I use, this ultrasonic cleaning solution for carburetors and other parts. And you just mix this with hot water. Mine's not heated. Running, but it ain't right still. I don't know if something's wrong with that carburetor. Might have to source out another carburetor for it. The one, actual one I have, it don't have the right fitting, so I'd probably have to switch over to a rubber line, which I don't want to. So if I can figure out how to swap those fittings over. So while this thing is running,